Frank?
Yeah, kid.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever saw in here?
Let me ask you a question, kid. Did you see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
Yeah. That's the one where the corpses start eating the people, right?
Did you know that movie was based on a true case?
Come on, you're shitting me, right?
I've never been more serious in my life.
Previously on Riders of the Apocalypse.
Hey, man, look what I found outside. It fell off an army truck.
Oh, shit. For real?
Yeah, it's this big green barrel. Check it out. It says Property Department of the Army in case of emergency call, and then there's a number here.
Dude, you rolled that into my house.
Yeah. You don't want to take it? I just want to see what's going on. There's a window on top, too.
Dude, get that thing out of here.
Is that a dead person?
Yes.
I'm going to open it.
Jesus Christ.
Tonight on everyone's favorite reality show, Podcast This, Jason and Brian finally have a sit down to reveal what their big Halloween episode is gonna be. Tensions run high and nostrils flare as a multi-$100 podcasting contract hangs in the balance. Who will win? Find out tonight on Podcast This.
Hey, Brian, I just want to take a second here to thank you so much for all the hard work you've done. The podcast is really rolling now. And, I just wanted to take this time to thank you. I feel like you've really grown. I know this isn't necessarily your background, and some of these movies are difficult to watch for anyone, and anyways,
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome. I do have one little question for you before we kind of move forward. Who did the masterful practical effects for a movie called Day of the Dead?
That was Tom Savini.
You're correct. And Brian, you have passed, my friend.
I've passed?
That's
what?
Correct. So I wanted to tell you this has been, it's hard for me to keep it to myself, but I've been testing you a little bit. And my friend, now you can legitimately call yourself a gorehound. Congratulations. You've done it.
Well, Jason, thanks a lot, man. That really means a lot to me, and that's fantastic. I'm glad that I passed, and you're right. It has been quite a journey, and I've learned a lot along the way, and I think you have too. And before I proceed, I've got a question for you.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Sure.
What is the ideal recording sweet spot for voice audio for a podcast?
So. Come on, Jason. Come on, Jay. Negative 15 to negative 12 decibels.
That is correct.
Awesome.
And Jason, now that you've said the correct answer, I just wanted to let you in on something. This entire exercise that you've been thinking that you've been leading me on the path to Gorehound Enlightenment, in reality, it is you who are the one that has been in training. For I have been your podcast sensei.
What?
And I just wanted to let you know that you passed.
Brian, what? Okay, are you really?
Yeah. Here's your orange belt.
You actually did you have a belt made?
Yes, because you are now an orange belt in the ways of the podcasting arts. Okay. Congratulations.
Well, thanks.
You're welcome.
I guess I should go ahead and just jump right into this. I was going to save this for another time.
All right.
I think it's appropriate now to tell you.
Okay.
You see the garage we're in and everything, the studio we've kind of built here.
Yeah.
Well, folks, come on out.
What is happening?
Jesse, Shasta, Carol.
Guys.
So, first off, Brian, happy birthday. And we've all been planning this for over a year. But we're going to celebrate your birthday. Y'all go ahead and bring in the cake.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
I can't believe this. You mean this entire podcast has been an elaborate ruse to just get me comfortable so you guys could just surprise me for my birthday?
You are the hardest person to surprise.
That's
and
true.
You know that's true.
You got me.
And for many years, we've been trying to surprise you on your birthday, and it has been difficult, to say the least.
I am difficult to surprise.
And so just surprise, this took a ton of work.
It sure did.
And in fact, none of this is real. The podcast, this is actually just an empty box. This computer is not even real.
You got me.
Yeah.
And here
you can actually, your microphone is actually edible. That's a chocolate mic.
This is amazing. Here the whole time I've been thinking we've been toiling away and just recording and hours of material and putting together hours of material to publish a podcast. And the whole thing has just been, this is amazing. It really is amazing.
Well, thank you.
Here's the reason that it's amazing. Because, Jason, I just wanted to let you in on something.
Sure. What?
It is not me that is being surprised today with his birthday. It is actually you.
What?
Ladies and come on in, guys.
Wait, what?
It's your birthday, Jason. This entire...
Is that my cousin?
It sure is.
John?
There's you.
Where did all these people come from?
Because
wait, I feel like I'm losing my mind here. What?
I know it's getting a little crazy, but let's try to just stay on point.
So where are we?
Here's the whole thing. Here's what's actually been going on. This and all the elaborate planning, the trickery and the deceit and everything like that to make me think that we've been working on a podcast for a year.
Yeah.
It's actually been an elaborate series of pranks.
Oh my God.
You've been busted.
I don't, Jesus, man. This actually feels a little bit, I don't know. I just feel like I've been deceived.
Oh.
Is that... So none of this... We're actually have been recording and stuff, I'm sure. So that's
for sure. The entire thing has been going out. Yeah.
So your mic is actually not chocolate either.
No,
that's actually a real mic.
Yeah. We've been recording the podcast the entire time. The entire prank has been you thinking that you were tricking me about my birthday. And the whole time I thought...
So Jesse and all them and my family, everyone's just been in on this for over a year.
That's true. So
I feel like I'm a little dizzy. Do you mind if I sit down?
Sure, go right ahead. Whatever you need to do.
Oh, well, Brian, all that's great. This is wonderful. I got one more thing for you. I just feel like I need to lay this right out on the table and be completely upfront and transparent with you.
Please.
You may want to pinch yourself because you're dreaming. Brian, wake up. Brian, wake up.
Is the Return of the Living Dead a true story?
Absolutely.
I mean, according to the title card of this movie, it is. Do you remember that when it first came up? It's like, the following is a true story.
Oh, yeah.
The events actually happened.
Yes.
So that's a fun trick that some stories have used. Some movies have done this. Famously, the Coen brothers' Fargo. There's a title card at the beginning of that movie saying, hey, this actually happened. It didn't. None of it actually happened.
Right.
But I love how, like, whenever you're Googling this movie, one of the questions that come up on Google is the Return of the Living Dead a true story?
And that's hilarious.
I love the fact that somebody bothered to ask that. Wonderful. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Riders of the Apocalypse. My name is Brian, and across from me is...
Hey, what's up? Jason here.
Mr. Jason is our guide for this journey.
The Rocktober special.
That's right. We've been hard at work on our October special, and we put out a bunch of content that has to do... It started with The Nest and went right through the Chainsaw Classics.
Yep.
Which was Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and then Pieces. My God. Why? I'm just kidding. I mean, it was definitely an experience.
Absolute favorite thus far. His favorite choice.
What?
I think he's actually going to order the Criterion collection pieces.
I wonder if they would do a Criterion collection of pieces. Like, it's that much of a document to preserve.
Yeah.
So it's all culminating, coming up on Halloween. It's right around the corner with a classic Jason, great call, The Return of the Living Dead.
Thank you. Oh, Brian, that's huge.
Yeah.
Folks, you heard it here. Brian said great call.
Classic.
He loves the movie.
Yeah.
We had a great time. If you guys want, of course, you can watch it with us with the commentary track, and that's kind of what we've done this October. Our first annual Rocktober special is we've released commentary tracks for all the films we're talking about.
Yes, and it has been
a ton of work. I know me and Brian have kind of just stayed at the studio. For about 2 weeks now. We haven't left. I'm actually very hungry because we haven't even been eating.
They won't let us leave.
No.
They said
I think they might have forgot about us.
That's possible.
So.
Either they don't care about us or they forgot completely.
It's a little of both, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think that's true. So we could probably leave at any time, which is making me feel really ridiculous right now.
I know. Why are we here?
We're here because of Rocktober, we're here because of The Return of the Living Dead.
'Tis the season.
Yes, it is. And I know that you've been gearing up for, as you mentioned, when we were doing the commentary. By the way, we are uploading a commentary for this movie where Jason and I are watching the movie with you. So please, we watched the version that is currently available on Amazon Prime. So hit play on that.
Yeah.
Or hit play on our commentary, then hit play on the movie when we say to.
Yeah.
And you'll be watching it with us as we react to the zombie goodness. Now,
you really will.
Return of the Living Dead came out in 1985, directed and written by Dan O'Bannon. He of Alien fame.
Yeah, Brian, you kind of enlightened me on him a little bit because I didn't know. And
isn't that trippy?
It's cool.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a guy that just main thing was directing. This was one of the few that he did direct. This film,
right?
But yeah, that's cool that he wrote Aliens, right? Or Alien, excuse me.
Yes,
yeah.
He wrote the original story for Alien. There was an original treatment that he had. There was a student film that he had done with John Carpenter after they graduated USC film school, and he took the kernel of that idea and then turned it into another screenplay, which originally had the name Star Beast, I think. And once it got shopped around and people started reading it, and then it got put into Ridley Scott's hands, they're like, oh, there's something here, and I want to take it to this next level. And I forget.
Boy, did he.
Oh, man. I forget exactly how H.R. Giger came into the picture, but when he came into the picture, that the history was made. And
that's the artist that did the Alien.
Yes, right. That's the artist, the German artist that created, and his paintings are just effed up. And his paintings, he had already done several paintings at that point that were very much a mixture of these terrifying, like, close-ups of like a hellscape of technology and biology together. And so you had what is clearly like organic beings that are also partly just like, metal constructs and joints and things like that.
Oh, cool.
But they're doing horrifying things. If you've ever seen his original paintings from the early to mid 70s,
I don't think I have.
A lot of them are there's a lot of phallic, there's a lot of vaginal, a lot of yonic imagery and stuff like that. That's done very starkly realistic. A lot of black and white, it's like, what if this were some kind of ancient alien hell where organic life is mixed with technology.
Yeah.
But nobody's having fun.
And that's way ahead of the time there. Because we're really in a way kind of moving towards this, eventual where we're probably going to be, at least some portion of us will be,
right,
blended with computer, because we'll probably technology and our advancements will get to a point where at least say a transplant might be a computer, an arm might be like a robot arm, so you know what I mean, so it's that blend of biological tissue and mechanical.
Hey kids, this is Johnny Carson here, just stopping by to lend my support to these wonderful fellas doing their new podcast, Writers of the Apocalypse. podcasting. Pretty crazy new stuff. Don't tell Ed, though. The last time I used a word like podcasting around him, he ran home and tried something on his wife that put them both in the emergency room. Anyway, back to the show.
But anyway, Dan O'Bannon most of that came from his brain, and then, Ridley Scott did the rest.
Good tie back in
Yeah.
to Dan O'Bannon.
So,
Man,
yeah.
just masterful.
It's called the old dipsy doodle.
So Dan O'Bannon was kind of known as a story guy, and he was brought in to do a lot of punch-up for different screenplays and stuff. But he wanted to do his own movie, and that's this bad boy right here. Came out in 1985.
He made the quintessential, I think I'm safe to say this,
Okay.
the quintessential perfect 80s zombie punk film. Especially, or just starting with the artwork.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
For the movie poster?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what kid wouldn't look at that and say, okay, I want a mohawk like now.
Right.
And then the soundtrack is amazing.
Yeah,
And it's got some very some quintessential 80s punk.
It does. It's got some punk in there. There's also some metal in there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
there's a
some
mix. It's
kind of
yeah.
heavier rock, and we get some psychedelic rock.
Yeah. Via Rocky Erickson. Is that where? Okay.
Yeah. I think he did that song "Burn the Flames."
Okay.
Awesome. So yeah, just the soundtrack, the cover art.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 1985, smack dab in the middle of the 80s heyday.
Yeah.
It's just a classic.
Yeah, it's a classic for okay, so it's well shot, but it's a classic for those reasons, and also because. So let's just talk about a little bit about the mythology that kind of goes into it. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those things where, and we'll get into, we'll get into a few story beats and stuff like that. But I thought it was really cool that, as things start to progress and we meet the first zombie, which is an animated cadaver, which is in this medical supply company in which the two first, Unida. So a medical supply company. Clu Gulager, who's the owner of this place, comes back because they call him like, this is fucked up. He grabs a pickaxe and puts it into this thing's head.
Yep.
And from what you know about zombies up to this point, that should work.
Right.
It doesn't.
Yeah, and that's at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
They're letting you know that we're breaking rules here.
Right. It does not have the same rules about taking care of downing a zombie as basically the George Romero film set up.
Right. That again is a very punk, a very punk rock way of going about doing a movie like this.
Right. That's correct. Yeah. They're
just like, we're going to just, from the beginning, we're breaking all the rules here, or, some very established rules.
Yep.
Another rule they break is the zombies run. They're fairly coordinated.
Yes. They're fast moving. They don't just amble and just kind of, lurch across things because you can outrun them that way. What the fuck good is that?
They tackle a few people.
That's correct.
Those are good tackles too. They're like,
solid tackles.
Solid tackles.
But yeah, so it was definitely their aim to try to just kind of subvert expectations about what you had already seen in zombie movies, because Return of the Living Dead at that point was already kind of a cult classic, but George Romero had also made the sequel, Dawn of the Dead.
Or wait, you mean Night of the Living Dead?
I'm sorry.
Was the cult classic? Right,
sorry.
You're right.
Night of the Living. I'm sorry, but getting my titles fucked up here, which also leads to a lot of confusion. A lot of people believe that this movie is actually supposed to be a sequel to like Night of the Living Dead.
Right. And when I was young, I thought it was.
Right. Yeah. Why wouldn't you think that?
Right. Because it's Return of the Living Dead.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's part two.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Right. And so it's yet again, we're in a little world here that they're building where it's like they're calling it Return of. Mm-hmm. Okay. So. Yeah. But in the world of the movie, I love how, if anybody's, if you're listening to this, you've probably seen the film, so that that we start out at the Unida medical supply company where an older employee is showing the new employee around, and they have a moment of quiet after he's taking him around and training him and stuff like that. And he says, hey, one of the craziest things I've seen, that movie, Night of the Living Dead? What if I told you
true story?
Right. What if I told you that it actually happened?
Yeah.
And it's great because we're in a zombie movie, but we're mentioning another zombie. So we're in a world where that was a movie.
Yeah. They're very much trying to they're playing with the audience, like trying to say that the Night of the Living Dead was an actual movie. Mm-hmm. This that you're watching here is reality in some way.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool. Mm-hmm. The two guys, one guy's Frank, is that right? What are their names? But yeah. So the young guy and the older guy here are they're just the best part of the movie. Yeah. I mean, they're just hilarious, slowly dying the whole time. And
Frank Johnson and Freddie Hanscom. So Frank and Freddie are nice. They end up being the comedy duo of the movie because they experience everything going in. They have it the worst other people are being scared and running from zombies and fighting them off and things like that, but these guys are experiencing slowly dying because of this trioxin. I love the whole thing about the fact that he says Night of the Living Dead was actually based on a real story, but it's hush hush, and we've actually
military secret.
That's right, military secret, and some of those secrets are downstairs in this very building.
Let me go show you. You want to come downstairs?
And they go downstairs.
You're listening to WCOW. Wacow.
Hey kids, it's Captain here. That's right, from Kip and the Captain in the morning time. And it's not morning time where I'm at now. It's 11:30 p.m. Central Time. And we're in the studio late night with you doing my first inaugural Rocktober Halloween special. Don't tell anybody, though. It's just you and me tonight. I had to sneak in a back window. The restroom window was actually a little askew, and I popped right on in. They had locked the door, and I don't have a key. But we're in the studio, and we are rolling now. So light up those jack-o'-lanterns and those stogies. Grab a cocktail and join me on my first Rocktober Halloween special with the Captain.
You're listening to WCOW. Wacow.
Me and my buddy Chris rented this with probably a stack of other movies, just like we did there was probably a couple of years there before we could drive, before we all got cars and girlfriends. Yeah. We just would sit there and rent 5 movies, all horror probably.
So you'd bike to this video place and
sometimes we'd bike there. I mean, sometimes his mom would drive us out there and just almost would drop us off in this video store, come back like 15 minutes or half an hour later, and just rent for us whatever we had in our hands.
So that's kind of was my next question. So there's had to be some R-rated fare in here.
It was from your stories. All we were doing, because my parents weren't going to do that. They were just a little more conservative. They were not going to rent or pay for us to go to the movie theater see anything that was rated R. Yeah. And I'd just go kick it with my boys, and their parents would sometimes drive us to the rental place and pick us up and just get whatever, or we had a few video stores pop up that were in the old BMX bike range, a few miles away from the house. Some of them would rent R-rated movies to underage folks anyways.
Oh, I see.
So you've got it's like the family video out in the middle of Bumble. Yeah. Wherever.
And to clarify for people listening, we don't have to get into exact ages and stuff like that if you don't want to, but this was a time before, there was a lot of retail places such as Blockbuster and stuff that were popping up that were, had very specific rules about what they were renting out. And,
Blockbuster was a pain in our ass.
Right.
Because our ass being under 18.
Right. But you and I grew up in a time where a lot of the first video rental experiences were through mom and pop.
They were.
Organizations or something that was attached to another business or whatever. So, yeah.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. I remember specifically a place called Video Valley, which I probably talked about it before in an earlier podcast, but it was in a chain of a small, very chain mall that was literally in front of a neighborhood in the suburbs. Almost kind of out in the middle of nowhere. There's not others, maybe a gas station a few miles down the road, but you would just have this strip mall in front of a neighborhood that would have usually like a tanning salon, a video rental store, and like a nail salon or something.
Yeah, right.
Anyways, but we would go there, and if we could get away with it, we'd rent. We were looking for anything that we weren't supposed to watch.
Got it. Yeah.
So anything rated R, and horror was easy to rent because you were like, okay, well, there's probably going to be some nudity in here. There's going to be some gore. It's going to be.
There's something verboten about it, and I know that I'm sure the box artwork obviously would attract you for various reasons, especially around that age.
Sometimes the box art, very inappropriate. This stuff should have been probably in a different room, like not necessarily the porn room, but I remember some box art for horror movies just being like showing the gore scenes just on the back of the box.
Right.
So anyways, but this movie, I'm sure it was me and my boys just getting a stack of probably 5 VHS tapes, hunkering down in their basement, and just munching on popcorn, and this is before we were drinking or anything, before you're actually running around in the car. So we watched this movie, and I had to have been, I'm gonna guesstimate like 12 years old.
Okay.
All this stuff we're talking about is, generally speaking, I was about 9 to 13 years old.
Okay, all right.
This is what we've been touching on.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. You're listening to a podcast that is largely dictated by the whims of a post-adolescent.
The adolescent
youth in Chattanooga
80s, somewhere. Yep. But I'll never forget.
Okay.
That was the first time I
saw
Linnea Quigley.
Yes.
And so never forgot her name after this movie.
How could you?
Man.
Let's go and talk about this scene because everybody knows what we're going to talk about. Okay.
On that grave.
Right.
Brian, I don't care if, male, female, whatever. Mm-hmm. That's just, it's just a good scene.
Absolutely.
It is. So we're talking about, of course, anybody that's seen the movie, you know what we're talking about. It's Linnea Quigley as the character Trash, one of the punk youth that arrive at this graveyard that is next to, they're going there essentially to wait for their friend to get off work, who's next door to this graveyard. But they're partying in the graveyard because they're 80s punks, man, and that's what you do, dude. So the sun's going down. They do what they want, man.
Yeah, so it's about society. Anyway, so they go in there and start partying a little bit, and they've got a boombox, and they play a song, and that song is just moving Linnea Quigley so much, the character Trash, that she starts to strip and gets up on top of a sarcophagi thing that's kind of out there. It's a little memorial thing, and she gets up on top of this thing, and she's wearing leg warmers and her red hair.
Yep.
And that's it.
And
she's dancing, and it is fantastic. It is a sight to behold, and it is famous in the horror community, and it has been talked about till this day.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons is that a lot of people see it when they're a teenager.
Yeah.
And it is definitely, that is the line of demarcation, like you said earlier, like you knew good and well. That I'm into this because she is fantastic.
There's something
her body
stirring
is wonderful. Exactly.
And it's...
she's in such amazing shape. She's got she's probably 5'2" or something.
Very healthy. And she's not a tall person.
Beautiful.
Yes, very beautiful and very fit. And
right.
And
there's the second half of that is the fact that this dance is done completely nude, at least as far as you can tell as an audience member.
Right.
And for years and years and years, most people were absolutely certain, and there's full frontal here, that she, absolutely, was not only clean shaven, because you can tell, but she certainly danced nude with everybody on the set there and stuff like that.
Yeah. And stayed nude for quite a bit of the film, too.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah. You're right. She's still nude in much of the movie.
Yep.
Or at least partially covering up or something like that. As we learn later on, because they were worried about at least there was some line. Dan O'Bannon was not worried about it at first.
Okay.
But the people that were helping pay for the movie were, and they were like, dude, it's gonna be X-rated or unrated.
Right.
We need an R rating. So she needs to cover the bottom part up.
And they probably didn't want to cut that scene because
Right.
it's so cool.
Exactly.
So they're like, we got to figure this out.
Exactly. So they put their heads together, and so part of the cool lore of this is the fact that she originally did that scene completely nude. Mm-hmm. But once they came in and said, no, that we can't do that, they shot it again, and the special effects department
So they actually did two different shots. So she did shoot it.
At least at the very least on set and the rehearsals and stuff like that.
Sure.
And there was the money men balked basically. They were like, don't.
Yeah.
So the special effects department, the same people that made the realistic zombie effects and all the gore and stuff like that, made a bottom half for Linnea Quigley to cover her privates.
Piece,
but it looks like she's still naked.
It really does.
That is one of the big special effects in this movie, and that's one of the reasons the scene is so famous.
Yeah.
Because they're like, how did they get away with it?
That's right.
How.
And, as a young man watching this, I just remember sitting there with my buddy, and I'm like, because of course we had to rewind it and stuff. We had to
study it.
But we were, young boys were just confused because we didn't even, we're like, well, and I don't want to be too crass here, but we're just like, where is her, pubic hair?
Right.
And I just remember that was the first time we were like, okay, maybe people shave. And that's the only thing we could think of that would be it. But it wasn't even that. It was actually a cover piece.
Yeah.
But anyways, we racked our brains for months and months. We had to re-watch it and no, I'm kidding. My mom comes in.
Like, huh?
Jay, what are you watching? Oh, just Return of the Living Dead, Ma. It's just a horror movie. You won't be interested.
What are these charts on the wall? Why is there information from Johns
doing a
Hopkins
science
University,
experiment.
right? Exactly, about pubic hair growth and things like that. But I can see definitely at that age how that might kind of maybe not throw you for a loop, but make you have certain thoughts and feelings like she's a grown woman, and yet
it's bare and
there's nothing down there.
Yeah.
What's good? Okay, so I guess is she what?
And we never never really solved for us and my friends. We never really solved that mystery. I literally just kind of reading up for this episode read that it was actually a piece that they made for her to cover. So she is covered, just very, very barely covered.
Right.
I don't want to get too graphic here, but they just did the minimum.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's seamless. I mean, it's like you can't tell she's wearing anything. It looks like her.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But that is the Linnea Quigley graveyard dance scene that we all love so much here on WCOW.
Look out. And that's really all we have to talk about for this movie. So Linnea Quigley dances naked on a grave.
So that's why you should watch
it. Good night. Folks, we're glad you stuck with us.
You're listening to WCOW. Wow.
And we're back. Thanks for joining me. It's the Captain here, late night riding with you for my first inaugural Rocktober Halloween special. I want to just start off with a list of my own personal favorite films for the holiday. Let's just jump right in. This one's near and dear to my heart, folks, and it is a gem. We're talking blood, boobs, penises.
Hey, Captain, it's...
Oh, Kip, you scared me.
What are you doing?
Oh, no, nothing.
I forgot my phone earlier. I came back to the studio to get it. And imagine my surprise when I come in after hours when we're supposed to be closed and somebody's in the studio on the air.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's just me, Kip, the captain here, and everything's A-okay here.
Okay. Are you wearing a cape?
Well, sure. But never mind that. That's
Is that a jack-o'-lantern?
Well, sure. It's October.
What's with all these Halloween-style lights all over the place?
I got to be honest with you. When I got here...
Is that a bowl of candy corn?
Yeah, that's... Kip, do you like Sour Patch Kids?
Why, thank you. I don't mind. Hey, wait a minute. Now, hold on. You can't just candy your way out of this one, mister.
Well, no. I just...
Imagine my surprise when I come back to get my phone. I come up to the studio after hours. It's supposed to be locked and everything's shut down.
Sure.
To find my morning radio partner.
That's me, Captain.
Has broke it in and is now doing his own little Halloween show late at night? Is that what I'm seeing?
Well, Kip, I wouldn't call it breaking in. The bathroom window was askew. So I came in through the bathroom window and I just felt like I was trying to pick up something here. I had left my...
okay, listen. You can just stop right there, mister. Because when I come back to the studio to find that my partner in the morning has broken in and is doing his own late-night Halloween-style show when he's all decked out and ready to go for Halloween, I got to tell you something. I don't like that. I love that.
Oh, Kip. Oh, my God. I'm so relieved. You had me worried there for a second. Well, listen, do you want to join me? I got, some late night fans here. We're just talking about Captain's favorite films of the season.
On one condition. Do you have candy corn?
What's this bowl right here full of?
Then I've signed on, partner. Let's do this.
Let's ride.
You're listening to WCOW.
Well, another thing that I want to talk about is one of the many things in this movie that is very iconic still to this day, outside of the soundtrack, outside of the characterizations, which are all great. I pretty much every actor in this movie plays characters that are engaging, that you actually kind of care about what they're doing. It doesn't matter if they're kind of sort of stereotypical in some way. They still have something to do. Everybody has something to do in this film.
Yeah.
But one of the things that kicks this thing off is when we talk about the two employees that go downstairs to check out the barrel that the military left behind, and then it accidentally cracks open and infects them, and it's what kicks the entire movie off. When they wake up, they realize the barrel is empty. And the older guy says, well, maybe it evaporated when it came in contact with the air. Mm-hmm. But it didn't do that.
No.
It's instead hiding somewhere else in that basement room. And when our other characters arrive to that medical supply company and go down to the basement, they meet Tarman.
The punk rockers.
Yeah, the punk rockers.
Yeah, Tarman.
Yeah. One of the girls from the group actually meets him first.
Yeah.
But okay, so Tarman is a zombie in the Return of the Living Dead that is one of the best special effects that I've seen ever.
Even holds up very well now. Up against we're talking Walking Dead stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there was an actor that played Tarman. It was a very skinny guy that had mime classes.
Oh.
Yeah. And so he was wearing,
not know that.
Exactly. He was just a skinny dude that was wearing prosthetics and just, draped and all that stuff. And he just had his zombie walk down where it's the shambling corpse that can barely has enough tendon and muscle on it to kind of ambulate.
He did that amazing.
Yeah.
You're right. His ambling and his he looked weak. He looked like something that's been, and the way it did the rapid decomposure or the decomposition when the seal was broken on the tank. And then he's kind of now at this point, he's just imagine the stink.
Yes. What's left of it, he's been in a barrel for 15 years.
If you didn't smell him coming, then that's your problem.
He's been in a barrel for 15 years. And when the air came in contact with his corpse, there's this amazing sequence during the opening credits where you see the skin melting off.
With the music, too.
Yes,
it's
with
awesome.
that great music.
Yeah.
It's a great opening scene. That's iconic in its own way. But Tarman is, they're still making action figures and stuff out of it that you can buy. There's posters,
Nice.
Various artists have done art with, him and Linnea Quigley, standing there, even though I don't even think they met in the movie. But just one of the things when I first saw it, I wasn't as young as you when I saw it, but I was just blown away by how real and gross and scary it looked. And it still stands up to this day.
Yeah, I think part of what makes him work is that he's so slimy, and his flesh is half melting almost off his face, and you can see the bone of the skull, and there's still like there's still like blood on it. And that just, and the eyeballs are amazing. That's really good work. For sure. And I don't even know if we looked at who did that. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Tom Savini.
So that was the other thing I had. I was like, okay, so was Tom Savini involved? Because he's a walking, a zombie person. That is, his crowning achievement was certainly Day of the Dead. I mean, a lot of his work can be considered crowning achievements in various respects, but
his heyday was absolutely the late 70s, early 80s. He killed
this.
This
was his time, and that's kind of why I figured maybe he had something to do with it. But I can certainly look that up. But so that was an iconic thing. But the characters reacting to not only Tarman but to everything else that befalls him in this movie is very much one of the reasons that the movie is so well remembered, and that's because the characters seem real, and the actors that played those characters are fantastic.
My absolute favorite as far as character interactions in this film. Oh my God, dude! Is it Ernie? The mortician.
The mortician.
He's my favorite.
Yeah,
and he is just this wild-eyed, white hair. He's just when they bring him all the body parts that they want him to destroy in the furnace or whatever. They're just these animated limbs that are flopping around in these plastic trash bags. And he's just looking like, what'd you bring me here, Frank?
Right.
Like, what are we doing?
Because he and Frank, have known each other a long time.
They're friends. They're clearly, he felt like, I got to go to this guy because he owes me one.
Right.
So anyways, and that interaction, the whole thing where he's like, you want me to do what? What are in those bags?
Right.
Well, they're weasels. They're rabid weasels. It's just so hilarious, and it just goes on. And then that scene, and then by the time the two main characters are dying, and they're actually, rigor mortis is setting in, and just the pain that it looks like they're going through, and then he's sitting there like telling them, well, here's what's happening. So your blood is pooling up on this side of your body because you're dead and you've been laying on your side. It's
his delivery is fantastic.
This is the best. It's comedic gold is what it is. I'm just dying laughing on that on that scene because you can feel their. It's like you said, it's real. Like it's done. It's acted very real. Like you would be in an absolute panic. You would be horrified.
Right.
And their horrified, reactions to these circumstances, and half the time they're just screaming at each other because panic ensues. But for the mortician, for Ernie to kind of always catch himself and like try to not panic but keep his composure. Him trying to keep his composure through this makes it hysterical.
He's barely he's sweat on his brow. He's doing, there's facial tics where he's just trying to like believe what he's seeing but also keep it together somewhat. And the kind
Masterful.
of and just sort of the medical background of that character. There's that scientific approach to
the scientific approach.
Let's actually find out when one of the undead halfway makes it through one of the windows and it gets split in half after he kills somebody. They're like, let's capture this thing.
That's a classic. That's a classic moment.
And they interview this zombie, and it's that's crazy. Yet another thing in this movie. It's like, what? This movie is full of stuff you never seen before that time. They break all the rules of other zombie movies, and they do it better than just about anybody could have.
You and I both, I think, for the first time, noticed that it looked like when she's on the table, when the half corpse is strapped to the table, and they're trying to talk to her and understand what she's feeling and stuff, which is hilarious. We both noticed it looks like there's like spinal fluid coming out of her broken spinal cord.
There's her rib cage, and there's nothing below that except for like a few inches of spinal column.
Sure.
And yes, there is a thick,
that's kind of a gross
viscous
detail.
fluid that is coming out.
Yes.
You know, but they're not pointing. And that's another thing. This movie has several details like that they're not worried about, like some character having to give you a bunch of expository bullshit dialogue outside of some like obvious stuff, like when they return to, like when the timing is right, they do it.
Yeah.
You know, like when the paramedic says that's room temperature.
Yeah, there's
like,
70 degrees.
Right.
What's that? Yeah.
Exactly. And so they do it without having to kind of, really truly spell everything out for the audience. But that was one of those details where it's like, they don't have to, it could have in another movie, a character would have been, is that spinal fluid or something? They didn't do that.
They didn't even point it out. I mean,
it's
we
just for
barely
you to,
noticed it this time.
It's just for you to figure out and see and like, oh man, yet
that just
another
adds
detail.
It's like that the attention to detail. You're right. And another one moment that I don't know, you would almost hope that some of these magic moments that happen in this film are maybe even ad-libbed, but when Ernie gets the one leg of his scrubs torn by the arm that grabs him, and it's hanging off, and his reaction to this whole situation is he, after he realizes there's body parts that are somehow animated that we've got to destroy, he says, okay, give me some space. He didn't say that, but he's like, give me some space. He sits down and he very like calm, almost collective, he gets himself together, and then he without talking, he just cuts. He gets some scissors and very slowly cuts away the rest of the piece of leg,
right?
The
pant leg,
cloth from the scrub, and then okay, now let's get to work. I love that detail where it's so funny. He's like worried about this tear on in his scrubs. He cuts it away, and now let's do the work. Right. Yeah. Amazing.
He and his friend are both just kind of old school guys that they just it just kind of shows that they're just older dudes that have seen some stuff and they've been through it. And you're right. If he didn't get rid of that fabric hanging all over his leg, it would be a consistent distraction. It might even be grabbed by whatever else is coming.
Yeah,
next.
It could have been a tripping hazard.
Trip him up. Exactly.
He actually ties he actually spends time in a later scene tying his shoe.
That's true.
And I noticed that too. It's like, that's incredible.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a bunch of moments like that for these characters that, again, just kind of breathed life into. The actors were allowed to. One, there's an amazing script in place. Dan O'Bannon knew what he was doing. The script is there. The story is there. And so the actors had plenty of room to work with their characters. And so they're able to make all these choices. And I'm sure some of it was dictated by the director. Some of it was dictated by the script and the director. And some of it, actors find things as they're doing, work like that. And then sometimes that's used, So I'm sure things like that, like whenever you got people like Clu Gulager and Don Calfa who played Ernie, you're going to at least listen to them too, because they're going to have, he's this kind of guy. He'd probably do this, So the fact that they let them do that in this movie and it comes out and it all works is one of the reasons that, outside of the cool special effects like we've been talking about and the crazy instances that come up that you've never seen before, the movie works because the characters are great.
Yeah.
And so I have to say it's definitely a classic for those reasons, for sure.
It is. And it's, cover art, the idea of the punk rock zombie, great soundtrack, great effects, good acting. It's the whole package. And I love that this is our Halloween choice here. All the movies we've watched thus far. This one, if you don't even like any of these movies, horror or whatever, honestly, just around Halloween, give this one a shot at least.
Sure,
it's a classic, and
exactly.
I even forgot. I want to touch on this before we kind of wrap things up.
Yeah, go ahead.
That watched it many times, but I think there was a few times I'm sure I've watched it where probably fall asleep by the time it's at the end of the movie. For whatever reason, I don't remember. They just bomb. No, spoilers here. They just dropped the bomb. Like what a way to wrap it up quickly.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have to worry about getting them out of that that situation. They just call the military. And we had touched on this in our commentary at one of the very first scenes where they're they've accidentally opened the tank with Tarman in it.
Yeah.
There's a phone number on there. If in case of an emergency, call this number. It's like a 1-800 whatever.
Yeah.
And we were joking, saying, well, they should have called that number at the beginning of the movie, but then there'd be no film.
Right.
You know, because and then clearly they call the number at the end, and all the military does is just, okay, send it in, and they just hit the button, drop the bomb, and it's over.
Absolutely.
What a great ending too. It's just like, see ya.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially and it's not just that they found the 3 Easter eggs as the code. You know, the code is for those barrels is that they're Easter eggs in military parlance for whatever operation had originally gone down. And he says, yeah, we found the 3 Easter eggs. Yeah, one of them's open. And so it's like, because, you know, he tells them, yeah, there's people in a graveyard, blah, blah, blah. He tells them the whole story. It's like, oh, so the dead are walking. Okay. You know, click.
Yeah.
Just,
just to clarify, you need help and everyone's contaminated. Okay, I'll get right back to you and bing.
Yeah, exactly. Calling some major artillery, you know, some a small nuke, basically.
Yeah.
And they even say about 4,000 people. Yeah, but, you know, it's worth it because contained. I know it's terrible, sir, but we had to do it, you know.
But
so
fun.
Nobody gets out, baby. Nobody gets out.
It wraps it up, and then they're done.
Yep.
So
the movie's over. Much like the end of Ghostbusters, the movie's over. There's a famous story about how they had planned to shoot some other stuff, you know, like talking to reporters and things like that. But when they were cutting it and editing it, it's like, dude, this major celebration where they've come out of that building and now the sun is up and stuff like that. They're covered in marshmallow and stuff. He's like, the movie's over. We don't need to do anything else. It's, you know, so.
Go home, or you don't have to go home. You just can't stay here. Have a good night.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to this latest episode, and thank you for listening to every episode if you've been listening to them. And
seriously,
this is thanks. And this has been a lot of fun doing this for October.
Well, let me tell you something, Brian. You're always really hitting home, and it's just all true. But thanks for riding with us. I'm going to go step outside and fire this up real quick.
Yeah, okay. that hippie guy, it's like, yeah, you're going to... Okay, yeah, we figures that.
Why do I always sound like I'm crying?
Because he just means it, man.
He means it, man.
You know
he cares. He cares. Well, seriously, thanks. And we hope you continue the journey with us.
Yes,
and
please.
Continue the ride. And we will see you next time on Riders of the Apocalypse.
Hey guys, this is Brian.
And this is Jason.
From Riders of the Apocalypse, and we wanted to say thank you very much for listening to the show.
Seriously, thanks.
Thank you for telling your friends if you had not already.
We really appreciate it.
And thank you very much for doing one more thing for us.
What's that?
That's going to ridersoftheapocalypse.com and checking out our social media links, checking out our merch links, and even checking out film commentaries for friends of the show. But that's not going to happen unless you do one thing, and that's ride with us.
Man, everything you're saying right now, Brian, is so true. We just, listen, folks, everybody out there, stop what you're doing. We just want you for half an hour, 35 minutes tops. Come on, hop on board, take a ride. Let's ride together. That's what we're here for, folks. You ride or you fly. And if you fly, I hope you fly, a decent airline. But anyways, fuck flying. Come on a ride. Got plenty of room in the back seat. Brian, hell, I even think he'll either scoot over or just get out. Let you ride shotgun. Either way, we're going to give you the comfortable seat and maybe even a cup holder. But come on, folks. It's time to ride. Every time I ask anybody to ride, they're always like, oh, I got something else to do. No, get in the car. Shut up and let's ride, man. You only live so long. Hell, I wish I could get my wife to ride with me. Anyways, just come on a ride. Hey, I'm buying gas.